And now, marine weather around Alaska.
Hello, this is Alaska Weather Marine section for July 26, 2023, and my name is Eric Holloway. A couple other options for you is a menu-driven system out on the phone and on the World Wide Web at weather.gov/Alaska. If you have any questions, comments, or concerns, please email us. So taking a look at the marine forecast, starting with the ice edge, you can see some openings throughout much of the Chukchi Sea and some other openings out there in the Beaufort Sea, otherwise lower concentrations just off the Arctic coast. For today's weather, included front stretching down from a low, 1,001 millibar low there, causing some rain and scattered shower activities down through much of the west coast and into Bristol Bay region, and also out there in the eastern Aleutians with that weakening occluded cold front. Also, ridge of high pressure in the Gulf of Alaska, generating some clouds over there in the Panhandle, but otherwise really nice weather conditions continue over in the Panhandle. Lastly, we do have some convection along the interior with that thermal low. And looking at Thursday's weather, what are we looking at for? It'll be causing the marine forecast. High pressure in through the Gulf of Alaska, generating some marine layer, low clouds, maybe some fog in the Gulf of Alaska and over in there in the Bering Sea and Aleutians with another ridge of high pressure, 1,024 millibars in both of those locations. Otherwise, along the west coast, that low near the northern Bering Sea, generating some showers that continue into Thursday's weather. And then for Friday's weather, ridge of high pressure continues over the Bering Sea and into much of the Aleutians with some marine stratus probably associated with that. And that low drives further northeast into Kodiak region, generating some showers and rainfall across the Bering Sea and over in the Bristol Bay region and much of the south central area as well. But otherwise, ridge poking into the northern Gulf there continues to bring decent weather to the Panhandle. For Thursday's marine forecast, winds in the inside waters generally from a variable direction up to 10, with seas as high as 2 feet, and outside waters winds generally from a northwesterly direction 15 to 20, with seas as high as 6 feet. For Friday's marine forecast, looking at winds, variable direction inside waters up to 10, seas as high as 2 feet, and the outside waters winds again generally from a northwesterly direction 15 to 20, with seas as high as 6 feet. For much of south central on Thursday, winds variable across much of the region up to 10 with seas as high as 2 feet. In the Cook Inlet region, winds generally from a variable direction 10 to 20 with seas as high as 5 feet there in the southern end of the Cook Inlet. And then for Friday's marine forecast for south central, winds continue to be generally variable and light up to 10 to 15 in the Gulf region there with seas as high as 4 feet just south of Seward. And for the Cook Inlet region, winds generally from a variable direction 10 to 20 with seas as high as 5 feet. For Thursday's marine forecast for Alaska Peninsula, Kodiak Island, around Kodiak Island, winds generally from a variable direction 10 to 15 with seas as high as 3 feet. And on the south side Alaska Peninsula, winds variable there as well, up to 10 with seas as high as 3 feet. And for the north side Alaska Peninsula, winds generally from a variable direction 10 to 15 with seas as high as 2 feet. For Friday, winds pick up a little bit around Kodiak Island, seas generally up to 4 feet, but winds variable or generally from a easterly direction 15 to 20. South side Alaska Peninsula, winds generally from a westerly direction up to 20 with seas as high as 5 feet. And for the north side Alaska Peninsula, winds generally from a easterly direction up to 20 with seas as high as 4 feet. For the Aleutians on Thursday, winds generally from a westerly direction 15 to 20 with more variable directions over there on the eastern side of the Aleutians, but otherwise seas as high as 4 feet. And then for Friday, winds generally from a southerly direction over the western Aleutians. Could see a small craft advisory there on Friday. Winds generally from a southerly direction, seas as high as 7 feet. And for the central and eastern Aleutians, looking at winds generally from a variable direction 10 to 20 with seas as high as 5 feet. For Thursday, for the west coast, winds generally from a southerly direction up to 15 with seas as high as 10 feet around the Pribilofs, 5 feet out there in the central bearing. And then for Friday, winds generally from a westerly direction, 10 to 15 with seas as high as 3 feet. For the Arctic coast, Beaufort Sea coast, winds generally from the east at 10 to 15 down through the Chukchi Sea, winds generally from a southerly direction, 10 to 15 with seas as high as 3 feet, and down through the Bering Strait, winds generally from a southeasterly direction, 15 to 20 with seas as high as 4 feet. And for Friday, along the Beaufort Sea coast, winds generally from a easterly direction with seas as high up to 10 with seas as high as 3 feet. And then down through the Chukchi Sea, winds generally from a variable direction up to 10 with seas as high as 2 feet. And then that should do it for the marine forecast.